Greetings, my fine fellow lovers of giant cosmic spacemen of justice. I am a good, and I'm here to talk to you today about Ultraman Blazar. Because I just watched it last night, because I didn't know. Well, I thought the first episode only came out, but it turns out the second episode was out, so I was like, oh, hey, sweet. Two cool things. I get two cool things for the price of one. But yeah, I watched that last night, and I wanted to do a impression slash just saying my thoughts because I've been meaning to get into the Ultra series for a while. I've watched almost all of Orb and then a bit of Ginga because I have that on I think it's DVD or Blu-ray that I bought like a couple box set from Best Buy. And then I've seen like a smattering of other things, and I know various knowledge just from like being a fan of Hideaki Anno and him being like a Giga Chad uber fan of freaking Ultraman. So like that, and then I've seen Shin Ultraman as well, which really good movie. And I think this series will do really well if you're unfamiliar with Ultraman stuff and like going just off of that, having seen that movie because maybe you saw it in theaters or people talk about it, or it was a remake of like an original series thing. I think going off the first two episodes of this show, I think it really sets itself up to where you can easily kind of just pop in. It's not too legacy focused or too like heavy referential to other things so far. And like it sits its own little mood and you get into it. That it kind of has a tone that is somewhat reminiscent of that movie, where it's more like the sciencey patrol sort of thing is your group of characters. So there's a little bit of like a military or like in an organization sort of vibe. So like the tone is a bit more like generally serious. Like it still got its goofy bits. Like literally episode two has one of the best goofball finishers I've seen in a minute that was just fun. And I'll get to that in a bit. But like if you were curious about it or just haven't heard of Ultraman, maybe wanted to see them had heard Shin Ultraman was good or like heard people talk about it or just want to see like a neat movie that's different, um definitely like checking Shin Ultraman out, which is a phenomenal film in my opinion that you should definitely go watch. And then watching Blazar if you wanted to see what the like actual show that was based off of, or like not the actual show, but because the first one was from the 70s or 60s, I forget. But like the show as it has continued to go on for with its newest iteration. And Blazar is fun. Blazar is fun. Like the first episode is essentially a sort of drop in the hat. Like you have people who are engaged in a military operation, and we're following. I think it's Genta is his name. Is our protagonist's name. So he's like your military commander. He's in charge of a unit, and they're like I think it's Halo dropping is what they call, where they just make a drop into a combat zone as like a giant monster called uh Bazanga. I watched the English dub just because I had never watched a dubbed Ultraman series, and was like, oh, I'll see how these are because people tell me they're good. It's fine. It was good. I definitely like. I'll probably switch to Japanese when I'm not like house dog watching right now because I'm kind of doing that. And I'm tired towards the end of the day. But yeah, definitely like, hey, if you aren't into reading subtitles or are just tired today and you don't want to have to do that, or you're not used to it, or you're showing it to friends, that's definitely a thing. Like, I'm definitely going to try and show this to my dad later once we finish watching our current show. See what he thinks because I took him to see Shin Ultraman. He liked it, so I'll be curious to see what he thinks. Um, so like good accessibility. It's on YouTube. You'll be able to find it down below. But yeah, back to the actual plot of the show. So pretty much you get these group of dudes going in, being led by the guy, and they're basically like a team with specialized weapons to attempt to shoot it at the thing to disable the giant monster, the kaiju. Essentially, that's rampaging through the city. And so that's kind of like most of what the episode we're seeing them kind of like various levels of command, like people who are like at the command center organizing like ballistics and air assault, and then the ground team kind of just moving through the situation and like sort of the problems that are going on, like logistics, like speaking to like information not being passed along correctly, and then them having to figure out from there. So it has a really fun sort of like if you've seen BattleTag, which most of the people who follow me on this channel have, you'll probably dig that aspect of the episode where it's like that sort of military sort of fiction thing, which seems to be kind of the running idea here. and they are just dealing with it and trying to go on foot. And then one of their groups gets got, but the guy who's the head of the unit, Genta, he is like, we all come out of this together because like that's the character I am. I'm gonna try and make sure I save everybody and get everybody out of this. So he goes over, he does. They have like little jetpack things, I guess, which are neat. Goes over, gets the guy, gets the missile. They try to shoot it, doesn't work. Building's about to fall on him, and then wham! Uh, he gets a little transformation trinket, and it like grabs his hands and just makes him do the things, and boom, we get the Ultra comes out, which is pretty interesting. I think the main draw, like especially if you're like wondering what this is going to be like, is sort of the mystery of what Blazar is actually, because what we get is like the main character Genta, he has like, oh, I'm meditating, I'm thinking. Like he puts his fingers to his head, he's thinking, and then he gets like these little like synapse things, which I don't know if that's either him being just smart and having a brain blast moment, or if it's something related to the Ultra, because it just came out. Like it didn't fall down onto him, it didn't like possess him or anything, and there's no real talking between the two. And then he just comes up, has a really cool like the introduction for Blazar is very interesting because you get like a couple shots where they obscure his face, and then you get like half of his face because he's stopping a building and it's like cutting him in half, and you're seeing for over the shoulder of the kaiju that they're fighting, and it's just looking at it, and then they like slowly reveal like the other half, which has the sort of segmented colors that like have striped down his body because he's got like a asymmetrical look going on. And so there's clearly like they're deliberately like wanting to make you think about that asymmetrical design, which is interesting because then you get to the actual fight and it gets even more interesting because Blazar just man yells like he was Tarzan is how I kind of wrote it last night when I was writing my thing on co-host, or like Blanca if you've ever played Street Fighter. And so he's just like running up, he's jumping onto a buildings, not like fighting like super like going in with like your punches and what. He just jumps around, like jumps at a guy. So he's kind of got that sort of like vibe going off, like fights like Tarzan with like I don't know, like martial arts or just knowing how to fight or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how you best describe like knowing people's fighting styles. But yeah, like Blanc, I guess it's that sort of jumpy, like savage sort of vibe going on. And what's interesting is like he stops for a second and is like, "Oh, hey, I have." He looks at his hands like he's confused for a moment, and so there's clearly like intrigue going on. Like the fight is actually really cool. It's a bit slow, but I think deliberately so that like you can kind of get the vibe of like paying attention to how his movements are to get like, oh, he's not like doing normal like, oh, well, I'm just doing simple chopping or whatnot. It's more like I said, like a Tarzan, like he's grabbing hold, he's trying to like flip them. He literally stops at one point and just screams at the thing. With like twice throughout the episode, like he's jumping down and like yelling, like he's trying to intimidate it, like he would, like another animal, like or whatever. So he's kind of got that feral sort of like savagery going on, but like not like crazy, like evilly, like something out of Kamen Rider Amazons with a Z, but more like just like I said, Tarzan. It's got that sort of like vibe to it, and it's very interesting. And then like he does eventually rip off like two gun shield arms that this thing has, so it is a little Amazon-y, but that was cool. Um, so you get kind of that, and that's like your first episode is like just military operation, and then boom, this thing shows up, and people are like, "Holy crap!" And our main character's like, "What happened? I don't understand. Like I know I was in that, but he's confused slightly." That kind of then leads right into the next episode where he's like, "Hey, you were working on this operation and trying to do some stuff. I'm putting you now in charge of the like special unit of the series because all Ultra series kind of have that sort of vibe. Or just a group of characters who have a van or a airship and go around to do stuff. And that's SCAD. SCAD is also cool as hell acronym. I forget what is an acronym of. It's something about, I think it's like kaiju surveillance, something like that. And so like from there you then get like a more sort of like, oh hey, uh fish kaiju has just shown up. Also looks cool as hell. So for all the kaiju that they've shown, really, really cool, and I would think they're all new. Just really fun designs. And so then we like kind of just follow the team as they get this group of our supporting cast together after we had our introduction to Genta and like his sort of vibe, him meeting and playing off all these characters, and there's fun like just fun characterful things like learning kind of the quirks of how these people are slightly from like, oh hey, I'm getting put in a new unit, or meeting the main character and him having like a backstory, or like not backstory, him being of someone of note, like people know his name because he's like famous. That's the word I'm looking for, famous, and just sort of like getting their reactions from like, oh hey, I'm being transferred over, and like that each building off, like meeting one at a restaurant, like, and then one during like the aftermath of an operation and cleanup, and then like him being kind of a goober and like, oh okay, where's the, and then another person being like, oh man, yes, yes, who they characterize as being really strong because they keep stabbing a pen through paper into the main character's back. It's goofy, but it's very fun. And you, again, you like all these people because their introductions are all fun and you kind of get their vibe. Um, and so from there, like you just get, oh, okay, Kaiju shows up, and then Genta is like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, our van's been tricked out somehow, even though it wasn't a minute ago, and boom. They go try to deal with the Kaiju, they try to deal with it like on foot with their uh, equipment. They analyze some things and they figure out, oh, okay, this is the weakness, this is why it's here, and whatnot. Because it's a fishing monster that, like, because of overpollution or overfishing, it has come up and is wreaking havoc. Because environmentalism, and they that's literally the overarching little theme is like, we need to treat Mother Earth better, which, yeah, good stuff. And then you get the cool fight, which this is a much faster paced fight, but also still kind of has a lot of really cool moments to it. I feel like the intention with this one was less like you're really paying attention to all the like little movements and then the back and forth. And here it's just this fun action, but also characterizing how he moves in the action and like when it's faster. Because he's the way they do a lot of the camera work is very like, oh, he's not just rolling and dodging like you would in like say like a wrestling match sort of thing. He's like, oh, beam coming right at me. I'm gonna do like a Matrix slow down like bullet over your face sort of thing, and then just go in and like, I think he punches him, punches the fish monster and like that sort of thing. So it's more like style, like enforcing like the style of how he's going to go and like that more rapid like crazy sort of movement. It's really cool. It's really cool, guys. Like, oh, I tell you what, it is fun. And then you get to the cool finisher because it's a fish monster. It runs into the ocean, and Blazar's. I don't know if it's gonna be like this, like photon beam or whatnot, because he pushes his hand out like it's like his palm forward at you, and then he opens like a little vortex and pulls out like a giant javelin made of energy, and he throws it at people, and that's how he finished off the first one. And in this one, since the monster runs in, he kind of like stretches it up like it's power pole from Dragon Ball, or just like he's stretching out the thing, and then he turns it into a fishing rod. He motions it like a fishing rod, throws it, and a little fish hook comes off and goes into the ocean after the thing. And then he's trying to fish it out, and it's really 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 goofy and cool and dumb, and you love to see it because he's like yelling this entire time. He's like, oh, it's very characterful and fun. Like it is just the definition of like, oh, that's super goofy, but it's so cool and it's so fun. And you're just like, yeah, yeah. And then he pulls it out, throws a spear, and then he turns him into a shish kebab, like a little like a fish shish kebab. How you do it? It's great. That 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 last half of that episode was fun. And then you get like this old fisherman guy that you see throughout the episode being like, ah, yes, I'm going to spout the theme of we must better not overfish and not pollute the oceans. And hey, girl who came here to do stuff, you could come fish. It's like, no, no, all right. It's it's very cute, and I don't know. I really liked these two episodes because they're just the definition of like, oh, okay, you can see the thing, you can see what they're going for. It's got a little mystery because we don't really know what the deal with Blazar yet is. Like you don't really know if it's like, is Genta in control? Is he the person in there, but like something's happening when he does it? Or is it like Blazar is this sort of primal, like primeval thing that just like isn't fully like there as a thing yet, or whatever it is. So there's a lot of stuff you could like try to infer. I know uh, when the show was announced and people were talking about it, the initial design was they're going to do like a thing callback to the original Ultraman, which makes sense, but the more sort of air quotes military-esque sort of group because it's like a surveillance team and they were initially all part of like the defense force trying to deal with like kaiju disaster stuff. Um, but like then they're all taken into the specialized group. And then Blazar's design being a bit more mysterious, or I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot you could probably infer, but they decided to change it up and give him a more kind of plated, spined look, I guess, with the like sort of he's got like flaming eyebrows, like this. Like the PVC is like drawn to look like it's a different texture than the body, like it's energy. And it looks really cool. And so a lot of people, when like kind of looking at some of the early designs elements, were thinking like, oh, it could be like a biblically accurate angel because his like transformation trinket is weird and different. It has all these little like symbols on it. And that actually could be a thing, like just sort of that primeval energy flow thing. Um, in the opening, and like for 1 second when like Genta first transforms, you see him kind of reaching out towards like a mirror like of his movements, but like you're seeing like a being of light in like a galaxy thing when he's thinking about when he first transformed. And so like maybe that has some things you could go for. And you see that in like the opening too, which fun opening. I really liked how the credits are done because it's kind of like a mix of military files where you see the person or like a kaiju mixed in with like a couple little bits of action as it go. And you're kind of going through like these newspaper, all this information, and the show seems to be definitely trying to make you think note of like chain of command or like information stuff because that seems to be like the big importance. So we need to know what's going on. Like in the first episode, a problem was like, oh, we didn't get like the information we needed directly because chain of command stuff got lost on the way. So we need to make sure our intel's good, and that's kind of like one of the things that this unit is meant to be uh, formed up to try and deal with. Scar is meant to be like they don't lose the intel, they are the intel, and they know how to deal with stuff immediately. And from there, like you kind of get that sense from the opening, uh, and song's really good too. Like, but again, fun bit of song usage. Same with the ED. I personally like the ED more, in terms of just being a song, but the opening's still very cool. I'm trying to think if there's any other cool tidbits I could tell y'all about. But yeah, Blazar is just cool. Like, it seems like a good show so far. I recommend it to y'all if y'all are interested. I think if you haven't ever seen an Ultra show before, like this would probably be a good one to check out. I don't know, think it's going to be too long. I think it's going to be 25 episodes if I remember hearing about it. So it's not a huge, super long show. All the actors are good. I really like the main character's actor because I had seen him before in Kamen Rider Drive, and he played a really cool kind of villain, anti-villain in that show, in the character of Heart. He doesn't have his cool, like, pushed to the side, fancy hair and cool ass jacket, but he still looks good, and you like his chin. He's got one of those actors where you really like the chin he's got. He's got that cool chin, much like Bruce Campbell. You recognize that chin and bone structure of that lower face segment, and it looks good. You know it. You know that's a good heroic like you like that chin. But yeah, I hope you liked my rambling and whatnot. If you would like to see more of these ramblings, I got all kinds down below, mostly about BattleTech books, but I hope to expand out into rambling about other cool things. I also will have links to where you can watch Ultraman Blazar and or like just their general YouTube channel for Super Rad Productions. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little ramble about some cool tokusatsu stuff, because Toku is cool, and hopefully you'll check it out. And then thank you to all the people who subscribed and or like support me on Patreon, as that helps me make more of these videos and generally just do more. But yeah, so thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great one.